Can we just start off here? Cheers.
Oh,
Oh, that's mine. What?
I
That's
drank
yours?
out of it.
Oh, okay.
No, you can have it. This one's more full.
Okay, cheers. Welcome back to the Get Shit Done podcast in Viva la Mexico.
Yes, in Viva la Mexico. I don't think you use that right.
Mexico.
Well, no, the Viva la, I think. Doesn't it mean like long live or something?
I'm sure people probably say that. I've heard it from somewhere. Anyways, this is our third attempt at recording this episode, but I'm convinced it's going to work. I'm joined by my board of directors, my CFO, my best friend, my husband, none other than Matthew Ray Larsen. Thanks for being here.
A little secret out of the bag there. Nobody knows my middle name.
Oh, I'm sorry. For some reason, the people really want you on the podcast. And
I don't know why.
I think I do. I think there's people who know you and think you're funny. I think that there's people who have no clue who you are and want to get to know you and me in a different capacity. And then I think there's people who don't realize that they're actually going to get some good business advice from today. So
Presumptuous.
I feel like you have things to say that are helpful.
I
So
think if you know me and you're at our wedding, I'm dangerous with a microphone. So we'll see.
yeah, and slightly dramatic. With that being said, this is Get Shit Done podcast, and today's going to look a little bit different. I have some questions that people submitted that we're going to talk through, and unfortunately, Matt now knows all of them, so I can't ambush him anymore. But I think it's going to be a good episode, and I think we have to start from the beginning. So for the people that don't know, how did we meet?
We met at WSU. We knew each other as friends for years or whatever, despite me trying a couple times to break that barrier down. But you must have thought I was too nice and too good, so you had to friend zone me for a while. I think that seems to be how it works out.
Yeah, I didn't really put it all together, I guess. That's fair to say. But it worked out. It worked out. We met in college, friends first, dated for a long time, Matt, and then we recently got married. So
What's the rush? That's what I say.
that's what I say. I said it first.
Sometimes, yeah, that's what you get though. It's funny how that works, right? You push me into the friend zone for so long, and then I push you into the girlfriend zone for so long. That's how it works. It's really just your payback. That's
Yeah,
all.
I guess so. I guess so. At least I got some ROI. So we met in college. We both studied business in college. I studied entrepreneurship. Matt studied MIS. Matt has been along for the ride from corporate to hair school to opening a salon to now business coaching. What?
I don't know if I studied MIS. I know that I have a degree in MIS. Management.
paper.
Yeah, I smashed that paper ceiling with the Management Information Systems degree, but I don't know if I studied MIS.
Sorry, Mom. Your mom.
Yeah. Me too.
Things worked out. We'll talk about it. But in general, Matt's been along for the ride for a lot of different career decisions and transitions for me. And I'm grateful for that. Anytime I need advice or like a different opinion or just to talk something through, this is the person I go to. So I'm just glad that you're here today. And I'm hoping people listening may get some laughs, but also get some valuable advice from you. So that's my intention with today's episode.
I'm just glad that we can write this entire trip off as a tax expense now because we had to come down to Mexico for this podcast. This view that we get to see is required to make this a successful show. And glad we have a good accountant that'll go to bat for us.
As my CFO, which we will talk about, I'll let you handle that conversation.
I'll tell him.
I'm sure you
I
will.
mean, yeah.
I'm sure you will. Okay, we got to get into it.
All right.
So we met in college. We both studied business. We both kind of meandered through our careers and doing different things. And for those that don't know, do you mind quickly explaining what you do now and how you got to the decision to study what you did and all that stuff?
I work for a small aerospace company in the Seattle region that you guys probably haven't heard of. 140,000 employees. Take a guess, could be anything. I went to school at WSU, graduated, worked for my parents for a while. almost killed myself a couple times dealing with some technical stuff that I wasn't probably ready to handle. Only put myself in danger, not anybody else, so don't worry. But then I kind of figured I was wanting to do something a little more technical and kind of understand the building blocks of how the world works a little bit better. And so I went back to school for an engineering degree.
Yeah.
And I chose electrical because people said that was the hardest one. And I was like, oh, I'm smart enough. I don't know if I was.
The hardest
I don't know if I was smart enough. And there's like 4 main engineering platforms or paths: chemical, electrical, mechanical, and civil. And I kind of viewed them as difficult in that order. Chemical being the hardest, electrical being the second, mechanical being the third, and civil being you'd say easiest, but it's not easy still. Which is funny because all the smartest people I know have mechanical degrees. Maybe there's something to that. Maybe they saw something I didn't. I don't know.
Yeah. Well, thanks for sharing that. I wanted to share because I think in general, between the two of us, we've been, I don't want to say quick to pivot, but we've definitely explored a lot of different career options to get to where we are today. And I don't know, I feel like a lot of our friends kind of have stuck in their industry since the beginning. So we both have pivoted a lot and been together through all of that. So that's why I wanted to share that context.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So I reached out to the Peoples, aka my Instagram, and I asked, I gave a little context of how long we've been together, the fact that Matt is very into money, finance, and all the things, and I asked for some questions. So we have a very wide array of questions to ask you, but I do think we also need to add one more like asterisk to this. Do you mind explaining your childhood, what your parents did growing up? Because I think it does factor into the whole business side of things.
Well, to restate what you just said, I wouldn't say I'm I study finance stuff on my own on the side, read books, watch YouTube and stuff like that. And I just find it interesting because it's just all numbers. The Fed creates a bunch of numbers and then people fight over them. And then you try to live off the numbers that you have. It's kind of like a video game, really, where it's just all arbitrary and things just show up. But I'm not really into money. In fact, the more money that someone else has, the less likely I probably enjoy that person, which is weird.
It's not true.
Kinda, yeah. Or the more that they're into it and how it becomes their identity, the less I am interested in dealing with that person. Yeah. You could be rich and just act like a normal person, and I'd have just as much fun with you as I would anybody else. But
be rich and don't act rich, and then you're gonna be besties.
Yeah, I like that. Yeah, I like that a lot.
But no, you aren't. I feel like you are into finance and understanding it. And just in the work that I do, a lot of clients I work with, people in my community, money is a big thing. And I think a lot of us, there's like 2 camps: people who don't feel like they're in a situation where they need to understand it, so they don't take the time to, or people who kind of hand off the keys fully to someone else. Accountants, financial advisors, people like that, and they don't actually know what's going on with their money. So we're big fans of like, even if you are using a professional or if you're doing it yourself, you need to know what's going on. So that's why I added that context. And then also, I think your childhood and your family dynamic impacts your view on owning small business. So give the people a little context there.
Okay. Well, I guess we start with my parents, but I'd rather start with my grandpa, who had a small excavating business where he drove a bulldozer for like 50 years, something like that. He had a CDL. He would drive his own truck to take his own bulldozer to the place and just excavate whatever that involved. And sometimes, so economically dependent on how the economy, I probably just worded that wrong, but it's so dependent on how the economy as a whole was doing that sometimes things were hard because they couldn't get work, or if they were in a recession or whatever, there's problems involved with that. And my mom saw that. And when she was 16 or 17, she decided that one thing she never wanted to do was marry a business owner. Because she saw that at time, when times are bad, times are bad. When times are good, times are good. But she just didn't want to deal with the up and the down, so she wanted to deal with somebody who worked at a steady 9 to 5 or something like that and got their paychecks all but guaranteed. And then 2 years later, she married my dad, and they bought a small x-ray business in the region and ran it for about 35 years.
So she didn't technically marry an entrepreneur. She just married a guy, and then they became entrepreneurs.
Yeah, but that's why she married him, is because he
Yeah.
wasn't.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. She got tricked. You got tricked. Everyone's tricked.
yeah.
All that to say, growing up around a family small business, seeing the wins, the hardships, all the sacrifices. I mean, she had you on a Friday, and you came to work with her on Monday.
Yeah, I was born Friday at 11 o'clock at night, and then my mom had the next half day in a hospital or something like that. Back home Sunday, and then she brought me to the office Monday morning at 8 o'clock or 7:30 or whatever it was, because she had to be there and work had to get done, and it was their business, so they're the ones that had to pay the price.
Yeah. With all that history, that's why I value Matt's small business advice. And it's also why sometimes I'm like, I understand you get it, but I still make my own decisions, but I still value your input. So, which kind of ties into the first question that I have. What is it like being married to a serial entrepreneur?
Just ups and downs. It's cool to watch your image for yourself in your career take place, and knowing that it's kind of like you are what you create. Everything depends on you, and then you get the fruit of the, what's that phrase? I don't know.
Yeah.
But it's kind of like you just, whatever you put into it, you get out of it, and then knowing that it's all split between you and the government is it's a great thing to see, that you get 60% of whatever you put into it or whatever.
Yeah.
I don't know. And no one else is there to piggyback off that or whatever.
Is it, well, I guess, what advice would you give to someone who's in the same situation as you? They're married to or with somebody who either wants to start a business or has their own. What have you learned works well in that dynamic?
If the person has if they can convince you that they have a well-defined plan, they know what they want to do, and they know how they're going to monetize it and everything like that, I'd say give them a certain amount of time, let them run with it. Don't get in their way, but answer their questions, try and be helpful when you can. And then if it doesn't work, I mean, the person should put themselves in a situation where they have no other way out but to succeed, and then maybe a time limit. And if it doesn't work out at that time limit, hit the drawing board again and see if there's something else you have to pivot to. But I think leaving it all on the floor and trying to go for it and just supporting the person from the side is the first course of action.
Yeah, and one thing in take like 1, 2, or 3, whatever take I said earlier that I feel like is worth, well, you didn't hear it, but I feel like this is an important point. Learning to set up your business as its own thing. So as Matt was in school, love you. Obviously, I wasn't relying on your income to support us because I knew that, you were working part-time and whatever, but that it had to work. But even as you got into your career, I still had that same approach. Like, I'm going to treat my business like its own thing. Even personally, I'm going to make decisions like I want it to be its own thing. I don't want to allow your success or income to impact how I grow and lead my business. And I think that's an important thing that a lot of people don't do. They think, oh, times are tough, or I'm just getting started. I don't need to make money. I hear that a lot, especially with women. Like, I don't need to make money. My husband makes good money. This is just like a side thing. If you want it to be a side thing, that's great. But if you want it to be a business, I think step one, you have to treat it like a business. And having a partner who, like he said, can be supportive and all that is important. But at the end of the day, if you can set your business up to be its own entity that supports you and your needs and your goals, then it just makes your dynamic stronger and what you can do together stronger.
Yeah, if you don't need the business to succeed or whatever, I would suggest a hobby. I mean, there's not, like, you can occupy your time if you're just looking for something to do, but I think if you're going to get into the business side of things, you're going to pay the fees, the taxes, the licenses, and all that kind of stuff. You might as well give it a good run.
Yeah.
Because otherwise you can just volunteer or work at the food bank or something like that. Like, stuff that people appreciate and stuff that will give you purpose, but that way you don't have to muddy it up and put your financial future on the line.
Yeah. No, agree. Okay, question 2. What is the story of how you became the CFO?
CFO. Kelsey was asking me to do a lot of math for a lot of basic stuff. Stuff to do with profits and losses and kind of net income for the month and all that kind of stuff. And I don't want to say I got tired of it, but I wanted some sort of recognition for just punching things into a calculator. And I noticed that there was a job opening on her uh, her C-suite. There was no CFO currently, so I applied for the position
Verbally.
verbally, and then I handed her a spatula in the middle of the kitchen, dropped down on my knees, and had her knight me as CFO, like they would do with the sword back in medieval England. I just got done watching it was Braveheart. I just got done watching Braveheart, and I was like, I need that. So channeled my inner William Wallace to get knighted as the CFO.
Yeah. Well, and all joking aside, I think just the dynamic and needs that I have as a business owner, things that are not my best skill set, like I lean on you for that stuff. And I think having that understanding when you're in a couple situation is so important. But also one thing that makes that even better is communication of what expectations are. So there's times I come to you and I will just start talking and you'll always be like, okay, wait. Like, I'm not your target market, or what are you wanting out of this? Are you wanting like a solution? Do you want to workshop something, or do you just need to vent and talk it through? And I think that's something that we've had to learn to do, and I would say we're pretty darn good at now.
Yeah, I agree. The what do you want from me when you ask me a question is always a classic, because I am not your target market for a lot of stuff that you do. And you know that, but sometimes I have to remind you of that when you ask me these questions. And sometimes the opinion that I'll give is not the one that you want. But if it's a moment where you just want to vent and complain about something, I just need to know that. I need to know what kind of conversation we're having going into it.
Yeah. So advice to business owners, make sure you communicate with your partner what you're desiring or needing out of that conversation. It makes it a lot more productive. And every time you ask, I kind of laugh. Like it's become like a happy thing.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, okay. What is one what is one lesson you learned from Mr. Greek? And for those that don't know, Matt and I are pageant people.
Okay. I might want to reword that.
Matt and I both have done pageants, but this specifically is about one in college called Mr. Greek, and it's for the Greek system. It's a fundraiser, isn't it? Like the whole thing?
Yeah.
Yeah. So it's to raise money for a cause. I don't remember what the cause was, but different fraternities would have people submit and run for it, and so Matt ran for it. So what did you learn from that experience?
Well, at the time, to set the scene a little bit, every frat could put up a guy that would go for Mr. Greek or whatever, and it was all to raise money for that house's philanthropy, because every house had to have a philanthropy that they did. It was a requirement to stay as a fraternity. You had to raise money for something, and it was a good way to justify the existence of the house, because people just thought it was all partying and stuff like that. So it was some good way to give back. And it was the second man pageant I ever did. But something I learned from that was really just to dive all in. If you're doing something like that and it has a good cause involved, and it gets you exposure and it lets you meet new people that you wouldn't ever meet otherwise, I would definitely recommend just diving all in and not leaving anything on the table. I raised money personally by selling T-shirts or tank tops with my name on it and stuff. They were bright yellow, obnoxious tank tops, and I donated $1 for every shirt that I sold. But when I was out there talking and doing the question and answer portion of the man pageant, I didn't really explain that, and we kind of I raised an extra $54, or I gave $54 to the cause, that whoever brought the most money got to take all that money home and put it in their cause. And ours, I think, was either Lou Gehrig's disease or...
It was for ALS.
Yeah, because Lou Gehrig was
in your house.
in a different chapter of mine. But yeah.
Almost like you needed like a marketing person to help you with your marketing, huh?
Yeah, it would have helped. Yeah, for sure.
Oh, man. Yeah, no, I think that's a great question, and that's a cool answer. I would also say, just to give even a little bit more context, it's not like Mr. Greek was like the cool thing to do.
I did it, so it had to be cool.
I know, but I feel like it was kind of counterculture for you to do it and like really go into it, especially with the tank tops and stuff. Other people weren't doing that.
Yeah, nobody else did the t-shirt thing. Well, the t-shirt thing was kind of a stretch. I didn't know it was going to work out as well as it did. But it also happened on like the first like 90-degree day in spring, I think. So a lot of people that were going to go ended up going to the dunes, like going to the river, the Snake River at that time. So there wasn't that many people, but it was fun.
So send it. Send it.
Send it.
Okay. Speaking of sending it, but maybe not so much, what is something that scares you?
Being in Mexico.
We're literally in Mexico right now.
Yeah. Open ocean. I don't know. I had something. I think I had an answer to this question, but I forgot. I had a good one.
Was it what you said earlier?
What did I say earlier?
Ebola.
Oh, well, Ebola, that's scary.
Flesh-eating diseases.
Flesh-eating
brain
diseases.
cancer.
Brain.
Anything brain.
Using a neti pot with contaminated water to get brain-eating bacteria. I've heard stories about that. That's kind of terrifying. But, yeah.
And I said gerbs, cooties, loud chewing. We kind of spiraled last time.
Yeah.
But yeah, open ocean, space.
Space is creepy.
Yeah.
It's very creepy. I like being firmly planted on the ground.
Yeah.
With gravity.
Yeah. So big, scary place, open places. What would you change if you were the president?
I would balance the budget. I would do a 15% flat tax. And I would treat everybody with the same set of rules that use a tax code, or try to, but it's probably all decided by Congress anyways, that treated everybody the same. And I'd find myself in a convertible driving down through Dallas getting shot by somebody just because I would be too disruptive. I'm not running for president. Yeah. Flat tax.
Flat tax. Okay. If you had $10,000 and a wild hair to start a business, what would it be?
A pressure washing / sandblasting business. Just because there's something very soothing about watching like pavement or something like that come back to life. You can see the stripes. It almost looks like you're just throwing a new coat of paint on a wall or something like that. That just seems interesting and relaxing. And I have a friend who played a pressure washing simulator video game, and I made fun of him at first, but 3 hours in, he was really relaxed and ready to go to bed. So it was just something kind of soothing that he just slowly went through the game with his little spray gun. And I was like, couldn't you do that in real life? I got nothing with the pressure washer in real life. Yeah.
I don't have any response to that. That's awesome. And I mean, we've talked about many a business. We've talked about starting businesses together. We've talked about different ideas that we've had. But that one is so specific and very niche. I think in general, a smart business move would be what solves a problem that saves people time.
I think the best thing for business, and me not being an entrepreneur or anything like that, is just anything that has repeat customers.
Yeah.
And not repeat because you failed, like
Yeah.
you didn't do a good enough job the first time, but a repeat because your hair grows out, your nails grow out. If you're into getting your hair done and your nails done, then you're probably the kind of person that wants to get it done every 6 weeks or so. So something that has repeat customers. It's the opposite of death by 1,000 cuts. It's prosperity by 1,000 cuts. Like, as long as you bill somebody consistently over and over and over again, you can financially plan for that and set up a big foundation. Not every business has to be make $1 million today, but you could make $1 million over small increments. There's some pretty crazy stories about hot dog stand owners and stuff, like selling hot dogs for $3 and we're making like $150,000 a month. Like crazy stuff that just, as long as you're good at it, consistent with it, and do it repeatedly over and over again, I think that's the way to go.
Yeah, I think one of the top female CEOs owns like a window company. And I think that a lot of the industries that are just exactly like repeat need, it solves a core problem. and not many people want to do it because it's not super sexy. Pressure washing, not sexy, but that'd be so satisfying, though. I see what you mean by that. So.
Well, you think about like people who sell cars. Like I don't know what car salesmen make on a per car. Maybe it's like $500 or whatever. But if they sell a car, it could be 1,000, 2,000. I don't know. They sell a car. They treat you well enough. They give you the price that you want. They give you the add-ons that you want, stuff like that. You can come back to that person 4 years from now when you want a new car, if you remember them and sell at the same place. If they treat you the right way, they'll get the repeat business down the road. But it just kind of, that's a little bit more, make a lot of money at one point in time. But you can do it the way where you're looking for it long term and they'll come back to you over and over and over again.
Yeah, you're not wrong. So, I didn't ask you this at all earlier, but I'm curious. What business advice would you give to me now?
I don't know. You're the business advisor. Keep your head down. Try not to get frustrated. Know that challenges happen and just work through them because at the end of the day, it's night.
Thanks.
You're welcome. It just keeps going. You know?
Yeah.
And don't be afraid to put in the time that has to be put in.
Yeah.
Not that you need to hear that, but
No, you're right. I think it's easy to lose sight of that sometimes, for sure.
yeah, but you're also the kind of person doing this podcast in the middle of Mexico when you should be at the pool relaxing. So you're not the person that needs to hear that sometimes you just got to do the stuff you got to do.
Yeah. Sometimes I get down. I do. Sometimes I do. What advice would you give to other business owners? Just maybe in general.
I don't know about business owners specifically, but for anyone who needs to hear it, go to your insurance provider and tell them you want to pay for your car insurance for 6 months at a time. I was surprised to find out that people didn't know about that, but you can save 25-30% on buying your insurance at 6 months intervals. Totally unrelated. Talking to you. If you're paying monthly car insurance, you borderline can't afford to drive. You got to pay all 6 months at once.
Yep. Yeah, and a lot of apps and stuff for business operate the same way. They'll offer like monthly payment plans or pay in full, and usually the pay in full saves you money. So budget it and do that.
People have cash prices too.
Yeah.
The credit card and the bank will take 2 or 3% of every transaction you make. So it at least behooves you to ask the person if they have a cash price that's 3% different. I mean, that 3% is a lot. 3% on every purchase you ever make over your lifetime, you save that 3%, you could retire 10 years earlier.
Yeah.
That might be an exaggeration, but it's probably pretty close.
Sounded good.
The other piece of advice I'd give is to read the book. Again, not really business advice, but read the book, Richest Man in Babylon. There's a lot of really good financial advice in that book. It's like 90 pages. Super easy to read. It's kind of corny at the beginning, but there's a lot of good lessons out there.
I don't think that money advice doesn't pertain to business owners. I think money comes up in every single client I've had ever. We always talk about money at some point, and so I think what you have to say is really valid. I think more business owners should be involved, proactive, and understanding of their financial situation. So thank you. Thanks for that.
Yeah, my mom always used to tell me the lesson that she learned from her dad was be good to the business, and the business will always be good to you. Take advantage of all the tax write-offs and stuff you can, because that's technically coming out of the government's pocket, and you don't care about them. But be good to the business, put the business first, and the business will always be there for you if you do it the right way.
Yeah. No, that's very true. I definitely have seen that happen for sure. Okay. If you were a potato, how would you be served?
Twice baked. And not because of the connotations of the word baked, but the baked potato, twice baked potato, where you mash the inside, stuff it back in, bake it, and then add cheese and stuff like that. That's by far the best way to eat a potato. It just takes a while.
Well, I mean, 10 years, you take a while.
Wow.
Okay, besides your wife, who is your favorite WSU grad, aka Cougs, for those that don't know?
We went to the, what was it, Cougar Legends golf tournament thing, whatever that was.
Yeah, it was a fundraiser.
Fundraiser where there's a bunch of Cougar Legends like Pretty sure Ron Say was there. I think he went to
I
WJ.
don't remember who that is.
Mark Rippon was there, like Super Bowl winner,
Yeah.
Super Bowl MVP, I think. And there was a lot of the like big names and stuff there that have gone on to do a lot of stuff. And my favorite person that I met that whole night was a guy named Devard Darling, who I didn't know who he was. And he leaned over to me as soon as we sat down, asked me my name, and shook his hand. And then he immediately told me his, like I wouldn't know who he was, which is just the humility involved in that is really nice. Like treating another person like a person, and the shit don't stink mentality wasn't anything that he had. Well, everyone at our table, like Jack Thompson was there, and Jack Thompson seems to be every athlete's favorite Coug. And yeah, and they all got up to, like, everyone at our table left us except for me, Devard, and his wife. You were gone, Jack was gone, Tony was gone, like all those people were gone. And halfway through the night, they go, "All right, legends, time to sell your centerpiece." The centerpiece was a cutting board that was all like made of wood and stuff like that. And I guess they were supposed to sign it and sell it to you or whatever as an additional fundraiser. And it was just me and Devard, and we started looking at each other. And he goes, "I'm not the legend here, it's Jack. Jack should be the one selling this." And I was like, "Well," and I'm looking around, like, "You know who Kevin Hart is?" And he goes, "Yeah, I know who Kevin Hart is." Like, what? And he goes, "Yeah, why?" And I go, "Well, I'm in a different tax bracket than everyone else in this room, and not in a good way. You see, I have a checking and a savings, and I could buy. It's Saturday though. It's going to take 2 to 3 days for the funds to transfer with the checking and the savings." And Kevin Hart did a big bit about that at one time, and he just started losing it. He thought it was like, it's like, "Oh man, this is so sad, self-deprecating, and pathetic that I have to believe him. There's no way somebody with all this extra money to buy this thing wouldn't just buy it for $50 to make him to make the conversation go away." And I had him rolling. He thought it was funny, and just the way that he,
Laughed at your joke.
yeah, just the way that he just took it all like as it was funny and was like, "Whatever, I don't care, man." And then I really didn't know who he was outside of him introducing his name, and went home the next day, and like he played for the Ravens or something like that for like 7 years. Like he had a pretty successful NFL career, and you wouldn't know because he just acted like a normal guy, and that was awesome. So he does like fun or a run like I think he does still. He did last year a fundraiser down in Houston that because of how cool he was that day. Someday I'll go participate in that like 5K or 10K or whatever it is.
Yeah.
Just because
Yeah.
I didn't buy I
The
couldn't
$50 cutting board.
couldn't buy the cutting board at the time, but someday I'll
We'll go to Houston
spend $5,000 going to Houston just to run for 5 miles or whatever it is.
to run with Devard and see if he remembers us.
He wouldn't remember me. There's no way he has thought about this at all since but I thought it was a cool, just
Yeah.
down to earth moment.
No, I thought that was cool too. I think the way to Matt's heart: be rich, act poor, be famous or successful, and be humble.
Yeah, I agree with that.
Yeah.
In fact, the more money you have and act like it, the less I want to be around you at all. That's just kind of like you can have money. I think everyone should be able to pay their own bills and stuff like that and be able to handle their own way in the world and stuff. But if money is your identity and you just show it off like that I'm gonna be real annoyed really fast.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. And not to say like everything is about money, but I just think I wish more business owners took the time to understand it for themselves and were realistic with things. I see people who they hold it really tight, they end up paying a ton in taxes and making choices that are safer but cost them more. And then I see people on the opposite end where they have no clue what's going on, they're stressed, overwhelmed, and it's a through line I see all the time. And because my CFO is here, that's definitely something that you hear of by proxy and stuff. So that's why I wanted to talk about money today. And you. Money and Matt. So I have one last question before we wrap up. What advice would you give to 18-year-old you?
don't stop working out. Your metabolism will slow. Your knees will fail. You have to keep going, keep moving. It is the number one. If I could go back in time, I would just still, yeah. Yeah, that'd be, and do engineering the first time through, because going to college twice was just twice the waste of money.
Yeah.
Or go into something, be an electrician, plumber. The money you can make in that will set you off so much better than the median, like median income in the United States. That those things are overlooked, and college is forced on people sometimes. Not to say I regret my time at WSU or anything like that, but
Well, yeah, you met me.
right again. But we could have just ran into each other in Puyallup somewhere.
We don't know that for sure.
We could have. You don't know that we wouldn't have. Just saying. I could have tried hitting on you in Puyallup too, and you could have rejected me.
Whatever. Well, thank you for coming on the show. It's been highly requested. 106 people voted yes, 0 people voted no.
I don't know who wants to hear this. I don't. Is it my super successful entrepreneur journey that is bringing people into this?
Yeah, I think we'll find out. I think if you're listening to this, will you please let us know what you got out of this episode so I can prove Matt wrong and let him know that he does actually have some great business advice and people do care. So, anywho, the pool's calling us. It has been for hours, but we're going to go swimming. Thank you for being here so much. I love you.
And read The Richest Man in Babylon. It's a really good book. If you have any money problems, read that book. It's the way to go.
Yeah.
Odds are you're spending money that you don't know that you don't need
To spend.
Yeah, there's a leak somewhere, and you'll find it if you just reverse lifestyle creep.
Yep. Yeah. Agree. Thank you so much for being here, listening to this episode, and we'll catch you next week.